welcome to this week's Engaged Learning Forum, hosted by the Center for Social Concerns at Notre Dame. My name is Dave Lassen. I'm the Community Engaged Learning Program Director at the Center, and I am just very happy to be here with you today. Very happy to have these spaces to be able to bring groups like this together and have these conversations. I've had some great responses from people who are able to join us today, others who say that they're maybe not able to join us because of their schedules, but are really looking forward to learning more about these events and about the kind of collective wisdom that we're able to bring together in these spaces, recognizing that this is a unique thing, especially right now when so many people are unable to gather. So happy that you're able to be with us in this virtual space. We're joined also today by our Community Engaged Learning Program Assistant Director, Lulama Moyo. She will be monitoring the chat box and the breakout sessions and the other Zoom elements today. So again, we thank her and are happy that she's here with us too. I have another couple of guests that we'll also introduce in just a moment. Before we get to that point though, just want to share with everyone, again, these are weekly events that we'll be doing for at least the rest of the summer during these times of pandemic and uncertainty and social distancing. As I said, there'll be weekly events, but they will be centered around a monthly theme. Our topic for this month, our theme for this month is creative community building during times of crisis. I'm happy to announce that our theme for next month will be tools and strategies for remote programs and events. So essentially that will be a set of topics around technology use. We'll have some question and answer sessions with IT professionals from campus, as well as some resources about sifting through accurate information on campus, and moving forward, potentially some resources around cybersecurity, although those are still evolving. So we'll be back in touch about that. Our specific topic for this week is, of course, mental health challenges and resources during a pandemic. And we're, again, excited to have this conversation with you. More information about today's session, last week's session, and all upcoming events will be on the Center for Social Concerns website as well. We will be posting recordings of these events. So as you should have heard as you entered the room, right, the session is being recorded. So I want to make sure that you're aware of that. The sessions will be posted online for people who are not able to join us today. So I think, let's see, our best thing to do right now would then be to introduce our guests. So one thing, this is a continually evolving and developing space. And one of the things that we're excited to start doing, I think, is to involve some outside guests and expert voices as much as we can into these discussions related to the topic of the week. So we're excited this week to welcome two people to be with us. The first is Lisa Anderson. She is an instructor at Notre Dame, where she teaches classes about understanding and recovering from mental illness. She's a co-founder of the Clubhouse of St. Joseph County. Clubhouses around the country use an established psychosocial model to help individuals with chronic mental illness improve their lives by building friendships, attaining employment, and securing safe housing. Lisa is also the past president of the National Alliance of Mental Illness of St. Joseph County. So welcome, Lisa. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Did you want to make any opening comments or share any thoughts to start with? Again, we've invited our guests to be here as discussion partners primarily, but wanted to make sure they had a chance to share anything that they would like as we start.
No, I don't think, I'd kind of like to see where the discussion goes. And I'm not a scholarly expert, but I have a lot of experience in advocacy work. And I think just having each of us share and get ideas from one another is just a really great idea. So looking forward to that.
Great, thank you. Our other guest today is Dr. Stephen Lassen. He is professor of pediatrics, psychiatry, and behavioral sciences at the University of Kansas Medical Center and holds a PhD in clinical child psychology. His research and practice focuses on the effects of trauma and illness on children and their families, including in public spaces such as schools and hospitals. He's also written extensively about the uses and benefits of teletherapy, an especially interesting topic during these times of social distancing. And as some of you have already guessed, he has the, let's call it, good fortune of being my older brother, which is part of the reason why he's here with us today, but also just, I know that he's someone who's very interested in and committed to public health. So welcome, Steve. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you very much for the invitation. It's really nice to see everyone present. It feels like an expanded Brady Bunch experience here with all these boxes. But yeah, I'm very excited to hear the discussion and happy to share what insights I have with you as we all are working to navigate these interesting times. So thank you for allowing me to be here.
Thank you. So as a reminder, this is a group of individuals from the South Bend area who are community leaders who are active in working with individuals throughout the year, but especially now with these questions about social distancing and the pandemic. Let's see, is Deborah, are you with us? Deborah Stanley? I don't know if I see her on right now. So we will circle back. Hopefully she'll be able to join us and we can circle back. She is the executive director of Imani Unidad and was going to share a few thoughts with us, but we'll circle back to that. Hopefully she'll be able to join us later. But again, looking forward to this conversation with everybody and wanted to begin as we often do with some just brief small group discussion. So one thing, this is a large group. I think a lot of us know one another, but there's other individuals who may not. And so one thing that we would encourage you to do is when you are making a comment to please introduce yourself, tell us your name and the organization that you're from. But one way that we really like to kind of prime that pump is to move into a small group conversation to begin with. And so I think Lulu should be putting us into those small groups right now. And in that group, we'd ask you to, you should be in a group of 3, maybe 4 people, ask you to introduce yourselves to the people who are in your group and to answer 2 questions. And these will be posted in the group for you to see. But the questions are, how has the pandemic affected the mental health of your clients and colleagues? And then 2, what would help you better support your clients and colleagues' mental health at this time? So we'll get in those small group discussions for about 10, 12 minutes, and then we'll come back for a group discussion for the remainder of our time. Glad you're able to be here with us.
Oof.
It was
Yes.
nice to meet Baye a little bit more yesterday.
Right on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt this was an appropriate meeting for me. The mental health issues I'm experiencing right now with this technology thing, it's causing me much distress. I'm a people person. Oh, I don't know where you guys were. I'm sorry. I just came in. But I guess, are the therapists still in the room? Oh, okay, Mary, help me. Just to get into this meeting, and it's just like, it's killing me. I never realized how much I thrived on human contact and human connectedness. Yeah. And now and then it's like things don't work and the power goes out and I send stuff to the wrong email and I'm trying to, and it's just, and it's, okay, thank you for listening. Your check is in the mail, each one of you.
Oh, wow, okay. This is getting better and better as we go along. Well, Lulu, are we all back? I'm not sure.
Oh, did you guys take a break?
We were in breakout rooms, having small group conversation.
Okay.
So welcome back, everyone. I love those small group conversations. Every time we do it, I meet people, and even if I've had conversations with them before, it's always an interesting conversation that helps me learn more about what's going on in the area. I always come away with notes about follow-up conversations that I'm looking forward to having with people. So thank you so much for that. I hope it was useful for you as well. As mentioned before, we're also very grateful to have Deborah Stanley with us. She is the executive director and founder of Imani Unidad, which is an excellent organization here in the area that want to just give her a few moments as well to talk about some of the ways that she and her organization have been addressing and understanding mental health challenges and resources at this time. So Deborah, and then after Deborah talks for a few minutes, then we can just open it up to the larger group conversation. So we'd love to hear about what you were talking about in your small groups and have that larger conversation for the rest of our time here together today. And would encourage you to, as well, feel free to talk to our two guests, Steve and Lisa, and involve them in the conversation as well. So Deborah.
Oh, so it has been challenging for those we serve as well. Initially, when this whole started, we were checking in with everybody to see if they needed any kind of supports, any financial supports, anything, and we were very, very pleased to find out that most of the people that we work with had kept their jobs. They were still working. And we thought, oh wow, the work that me and Isaac and everybody do together, they have good coping skills and they've been able to stay. But come to find out, as we learn more and more, it is because they are service workers, essential workers, and the fears that they came with in trying to keep it. One employee worked in a factory, and she was just talking to us about the fact that over 30 people in the factory have just disappeared, but nobody is saying anything. And then they see all the upper level staff have gone home. They're working from home. They don't have to come in, and they've even made other line workers, supervisors, temporary supervisors, to come in while other people can stay home. And so just that kind of fear of not knowing, not being provided with any kind of modifications to the workplace. Then when we were dispersing funds, we had a lady who came in who had just walked off her job just from paranoia. And I mean, she was just wiping down everything as she goes. And so it's really critical. And then we also serve people with compromised immune systems. And so we had to consult legal help because they were being required to keep their jobs in nursing homes. They work, in nursing homes. And they were seeing people in the nursing home become infected. And they have compromised immune systems, and they were wondering, could they go home and still get unemployment, because their employer was saying that no, they had to continue to come to work. And so we referred them to legal aid services, because all those kinds of questions. And then, so here is the stress of the fear of getting another illness on top of your already compromised immune system. And stress is the worst thing for anybody's immune system. And so, yeah, just this whole snowballing of all of those kinds of things. And so there are people that we have seen in person through all of this, but we've had to, because our senior aides were immediately sent home, we've had to hire people to sanitize, all day long after every individual. And so only one person is allowed at a time. And so the fact that we have to stay away from one another, we can't hug, we can't embrace, we can't console one another physically, those kinds of things, yeah, just it is a challenge on a whole lot of levels these days.
Well, I'm curious. Thank you for sharing that, Deborah. And especially that idea and question of the layering of psychological stresses that are happening right now, right? Because I think we've all talked about the intersections of different things in our lives that are being affected by this pandemic. What have been other people's experience with, kind of that compounding of worrying about getting sick, and then worrying about losing your job, and then worrying about who's going to take care of your family, and all those things coming together. Have you seen that? Have you found some effective ways to help people through that?
David, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So at some point I want to talk about resources that I'm aware of in the community that are helpful, but I see that our executive director, Mark Buchanan, is on. Can you hear me, Mark?
I can.
So I would like to, if you don't mind, have him, he's the director of Clubhouse. So I'd love to have, I didn't know you were going to be here, Mark. So I'd love to have you share some with, kind of how our members are coping and all the things that you and your staff have been doing to help them. It's not directly answering your question, David, but I think it's in the ballpark.
Mm-hmm.
So thanks, Lisa. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm Mark from the Clubhouse of St. Joseph County. We're in South Bend between the YMCA and the Brick. And we work with people whose lives have been disrupted with a pretty serious mental illness, schizophrenic, manic depression, things like that. And we're a supportive community for them. But right now our club is kind of closed. We don't normally say the word closed. We say we're offering services remotely, which means our staff is spending a lot of time on the phone, checking in with people, texting, email. We have a Zoom check-in every day, a lot of things like that. And in watching, I think our members' biggest need is they kind of just need to have some fun. They need someone to tell them a joke. They need someone just to sort of say, how you doing? But sort of just a little bit of, because it's all pretty serious. When you think about it, it's scary. You don't know what's going to happen in the future. Especially if you have a couple other immune deficiency things going on. It's just, all that's a burden, and people need to feel like somebody cares. So a lot of what we do is just checking in and saying, how you doing? What are you cooking for lunch today? Just sort of normal stuff, because people need somebody to talk to and to know that somebody cares about them. And then to have a little bit of fun and just tell a stupid joke or just help them have a little bit of lightness and, let people know that there's a community that does care about each other. And then to just sort of right out and admit it and say, this is really hard, it's really weird being home all the time, and then different people react different ways. Some of them are really afraid to go out of their house. Other people just sort of completely ignore it and act like, life's the same as it always been. So, sort of get to know each other and try to understand each other and be supportive. So I think the human connection is really important, even though it's not physical. You can't shake their hand, you can't be with them, but via all of our modern technology and everything, I think to let people know that somebody cares about them is really the most important thing. I don't know, that's kind of what we're doing. We're, two, there's people that have real needs. They need to get food, they need to get their medicine, and then those kind of things we work out with rides and transportation. The buses aren't running, and if the buses are running, are they safe means of transport, all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of what we're doing. And I guess the people would say, what's the most helpful thing you do? I think the most helpful thing is to help people have a little bit of fun amid a sort of, I don't know, depressing or blue or whatever word you want to use for it situation. So I don't, that's sort of my thoughts on it. It's what we're doing. We're also talking about how to open back up, because it's now been more than a month that we've been working remotely, how to do that safely, how to get people to keep social distancing and sanitation and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, that's my short thoughts on the subject.
Thanks, Mark.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I just want to throw in there is before the COVID-19 happened, the Clubhouse has always been really strong and committed to reaching out to people. And I guess one thing I want to say is, this is a time when I think we need to err on the side of reaching out, even if we're not sure people need to be contacted, not sure what people's situation is. One very quick story I had from before the COVID-19, I don't know, I'm just gonna make this up. Clubhouse probably called this person 2 times a week, maybe 3 times a week, whatever it was. And they finally called back and they said, why are you calling me all the time? I'm fine, right? And so then they decreased some of the calling. Then they called and they said, how come you're not calling me so much anymore? I just thought that's a great example of, you can't necessarily assume that what you hear from people is what they really need. And I think we need to err on the side of, as much as we can, the human contact. In an ideal world, we would each like to hear every day, you matter, I care about you, whatever, however else you want to say it. You know, God created you to be here in this time, and me too, and I want to support you in any way I can. We all want to be able to hear that in normal times, and then in these times of crisis, it's ramped up, times 100 or whatever. That's my 2 cents. Thanks, Mark.
Lisa, piggybacking on that, I think that what the other thing that I find interesting is that when I call and talk to our guests and to our volunteers, people are so grateful, like to know that people are safe, to know that people within their community of support, their community that they call home, so to speak, that everybody's okay. And knowing that on a weekly or daily basis is just really, really important. My volunteers are reading their emails actually after many, many years of like, did you get that information?
Now, life-changing event after COVID. They'll be reading their emails.
Right. So, so it's, and people wanting to contribute. I think that that's the most gratifying thing, even the guests. And Madeline had said that, guests at the Center for the Homeless are really stepping up because, they've lost volunteers, but St. Margaret's House isn't open, and, we're only serving meals virtually and doing a lot of the same sort of remote things that you guys are doing at the clubhouse. I'm starting some programming online with the guests tomorrow. We'll see how that goes because computer access is really, really sketchy. But it is like when I call to reach out to somebody and they say, oh my gosh, it's so good to hear your voice, so yeah.
Can I ask a question? How do you support staff? Because we have staff that, are working at this all day, every day, but they themselves, are worried about their family or their health isn't perfect and they're sort of putting themselves a little bit more at risk. And, I think they need the same things just to know that somebody cares. But I'm just wondering, what other people think about that? Any thoughts that I should think about that I'm not? Oakland, which Carrie's from, they have a huge amount of staff in the hospital, that are working every single day really hard. And how do we just take care of our staff?
It's hard. So I'm from Oakland. I see Melissa's on here too. So I don't know, Melissa, if you want to talk about how you've seen your kids and families, your clients. I'm more on the administration side, so I haven't seen that. But do you want to talk a little bit about how your families are doing?
Sure, yeah. So I supervise a group of skills trainers. I see a couple clients still at Oakland as well on a therapy side. It's been tough to support them. I think initially our staff didn't feel like they were essential, and of course they are, and we kind of kept telling them they were, but they were conflicted in that. And now they're doing everything by Zoom. We're trying to support them by giving them as much freedom there as we can, but also knowing that it's not going to be Zoom forever. And I have staff who want to go see people right away, and they're ready to do as much face-to-face as we'll let them do. And then I have staff who probably won't be ready for months. And so we're trying to just focus on meeting each staff kind of individually where they're at, helping them through their own, we're not their therapist, but helping them through that process of what's it going to take to feel ready. But then also just being a listening ear. And I'm working more hours than I did before because I'm there for my staff as much as I can be. Anything we can do to build morale. We're trying to do little groups with staff on Zoom to just let them talk to each other. We're trying to do fun trivia events with our staff, emails regularly to just check in and see how they're doing. But it's been tough. It's definitely been hard. And I think for their mental health, it's been, without question, it's been the hardest thing we've gone through as a group and probably would ever go through as a group, trying to navigate this.
One thing I've heard from a few people in different sessions that has really been a morale issue that is probably an easy fix is this frontline staff saying that the administrative staff, the higher paid staff are working from home when they're still coming in and doing the day-to-day work of the mission. And So I think the administrative staff have to really be mindful of the message that gives to the direct line staff.
Yeah, I agree.
I would
I
echo
mean,
that too.
leadership wise, all of us are at work. So hopefully that helps other people feel better about coming to work themselves as having leadership all in the building.
I was going to say, I'm Emily. I'm at El Campito. I'm the executive director, and I'm not technically probably work from home, but I think it says a lot to my staff that I'm here every day, because it means that I know that, I mean, I've had staff all over the board that are like, I don't even care what happens with the pandemic. I'll be here till you force me to go home. And I have other ones that are like, heck no, I'm not working a day. I'll take whatever leave you want me to take. And so I think that as I'm here and I'm in the middle and I treat all of the staff individually, it helps say, I understand what you're going through. I get that you're concerned about these things, and I'm here in this with you.
Good for you.
So that's what I could speak to on that.
Emily, I applaud you. I really do. I applaud you on just that fact that you are the lead in your organization and that you're setting the example. Because a lot of organizations are not saying this, and what everybody's saying is right on point. You know, I oversee the Save Our Risk team and part of GVI. So we're dealing with gun violence every day. We just had a shooting last night where we had 100 people out there in the community that's grieving and going through trauma, and still trying to honor social distancing, but also trying to be empathetic to the trauma that people are going through. And then at the same time, I'm looking at my staff, you know. So, you know, do I send them to EAP or do I call Deborah up and say, I need you to talk to my people? You know, I've been literally giving people days off. Don't get on your computer. Don't answer email. If I text you and I forgot you off, don't even answer. Just say, listen, I'm off. Because they got to get their minds back together as well, because we had to really shift our focus and still deal with gun violence, but also deal with, I was just on with Pat Hatchett, and I said, when America get a cold, African-American and minority community gets the flu. We were already unemployed. We were already dealing with mental trauma. You know, we were already, all these things were already happening, and now it's double. You know, we got the young ladies out here that don't have food to eat. You know, we passing out food boxes. It's you know, no PPE. You know, so, you know, you go to the gas station, they want to charge you $3 for a PPE. You know, but we're saying everybody should go back to work, and what are the organizations doing to make sure that the staff has PPE? You know, barbershops, beauty salons. That's the first places that I know I'm going to the barbershop as soon as this is over. You know, but then I found out that COVID virus sits in the hair for 8 hours. How are we protecting our barbers and our beauticians and making sure they got proper PPE, and making sure that testing sites in the area that the zip code says that the virus is going up in?
For sure. Yeah. And I think that it goes back to giving ourselves grace and giving grace to the people that we're working with. So if I'm having an off day and I feel overwhelmed, I would say the biggest thing for me is like, in our staff is how long is this going to take? And I think that, and all of us on this call can relate to that and say, I can't handle it today. I'm going home. I'm going to go get my kids. I'm going to go on a walk outside. I'm going to just take a deep breath, and my staff say, okay, peace out. And then tomorrow, maybe I'm a little bit stronger and my program director is losing her mind. I say, get out of here, go. And we give each other grace, and we let all of us be on the process where we're at and just kind of support when we can. And I think that is the best we can do. And I agree with you, like, oh, don't open your computer today. Like, just don't do it, is some of the best advice we can give, and really honor those boundaries.
So last Friday, we had a staff retreat, and we all hung out together. While we did try to conduct some business, we had food catered in, and we just decided that every Friday would be ours, you know, 4 hours of us together, and then we'll go home, you know, and that would be our time to support one another, you know, because we have been open every day, even though the face-to-face contact with folks has subsided a great deal, but we've been here working. And so it's just being that mindful that we do take care of ourselves and one another. So we just decided to give that day to us.
I think one thing that's been interesting to us is that, and I don't know if it's because people have less to do, but at Oaklawn, our no-show rates have plummeted. People are keeping their appointments. They're all showing up by Zoom. We are doing more appointments now, just from not even scheduling more, but just because we have no-shows. We're doing more appointments now through telemed than we were when we did face-to-face. So that's been interesting to us. So to look at, as everyone on this call knows, capacity for services is limited. So how can we maybe use this as a learning experience to increase capacity for the future? If we can, the only reason we were allowed to do this is because DMHA in Indiana opened up all of the regulations. So what can we do to keep some of these regulations open if we know it's working?
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and increasing options for people.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, there are things that we are thinking about now that will be forever changed. Even in terms of us opening up, we've decided for ourselves that certain things have to be in place before we open up, no matter what the governor says, no matter what, you know. So yeah, so even being able to know that we can make our own decisions about those kinds of things is helpful for our mental health.
Carrie, would you share a little bit of what you shared in our group about your concern about children and abuse and children's mental health, and how when we come back we can recognize that and respond to it? You ready?
Yeah, so our biggest concern, and what we've been doing some trainings on, and Melissa, you can jump in, but is, you know, our child referrals have plummeted. Kids aren't in school, they aren't in after school programs. We know addiction use is on the rise, so we know abuse and neglect is on the rise. We're also opening the economy, but no one's going back to school or daycare. So what does that mean for kids? And how can we reach anybody that's interacting with them? So we held a child abuse reporting seminar. I think it was on Monday or Tuesday. A lot of different agencies came. There were 100 people. Maybe we're going to train food service employees that are delivering the school lunches, or training people who are resourcing other people that wouldn't traditionally look for these things to kind of report. You know, DCS is open. Melissa, I think your staff are still doing home visits for kids that are currently on DCS, and we haven't stopped that because it's so important to do that. But what is happening at home? What is the effect going to be long term? And then as things open up, we know those referrals are going to fly in. So what can we do to ensure that we have the capacity to meet that need as it happens? So we don't necessarily have answers to all of those questions, but all community partners are working together and talking about what we can do, coming up with different trainings, and kind of moving forward as an entire community system for us in Elkhart County and St. Joe County. But yeah, it's a huge concern thinking about these kids at home and what's happening, and you know, the unintended consequences of stimulus money coming through means a lot of people had extra money to spend on drugs, or the extra unemployment. Those have unintended consequences that we know that not everyone thinks about. So how can we access these kids? How can we help them? And then once everybody comes back, what can we do? So I don't know if you have anything to add to that. Yeah.
I would like to add one thing, you know, and I agree totally with the uses of drugs and alcohol going up. We have no detox center.
Yeah, I know.
So this is something that we should be focusing on now and trying to prepare to be able to have a detox center for those that's ready to get off drugs and need the opportunity to get off drugs.
Yeah.
So
our addiction.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, our addictions groups and addictions is going to be the first service that goes back face to face. It's been the service that's struggling the most with telemed. They need connection. It's hard to build skills through Zoom. It's hard to build relationships and maintain those skills. So that was our first discussion this week, is that we think in 2 weeks, addiction is going to be back to face, smaller groups, socially distanced. You know, detox center is such a bigger conversation. regarding paying for it and sustaining it. But yeah, I mean, it's something that the community needs to think about.
Sorry, I wanted to clarify, Isaac. I'm new to the area, and so I wanted to know there's no detox center in St. Joseph's County.
Yes,
No.
there's no detox center.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just last week, I had a young man who on heroin. We had no place to take him here in South Bend. We literally had to call Fort Wayne. We had to call Plymouth, and eventually we ended up getting him into Chicago. Literally put him on the bus. The people met him on the bus and took him to the detox center. And then I just got a call saying that he owes $700 and he don't have a job.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's when we're talking about trauma, you know, what else could be said?
So let me emphasize, you know, there's a lot of deficits that we have in terms of providing programs and treatments for people. But on the other hand, we do have capacity to meet a lot of needs. And we know that only about a third of people who have a mental health condition ever get treatment. And so we have the capacity to probably do more than we realize sometimes. So I would really encourage everyone in their organizations to, if you haven't already, make a list of mental health resources that you can share with your staff, your organizations. There's EAP. There's also a lot of very helpful apps that are being developed that people can access for free. We have crisis lines. You know, we have a lot of resources, even though, you know, they don't begin to meet the need. We do have resources, and a lot of people who aren't accessing those could, if they just knew about them, if they had some support, if they had someone who followed up with them to make sure that they went to an appointment or whatever. And so I hope that this isn't too depressing of a conversation in terms of everything that we need and everything that we don't have. You know, I think we really need to focus too on what we do have and making sure that those are maximized in our communities.
Isaac, is that person coming to outpatient at Oaklawn?
He will be Friday. Next Wednesday, I'll go pick him up from Chicago. I'm personally going to drive down there, pick him up, and bring him back to South Bend, and then trying to get him set up with you guys as well. Okay. My coordinator.
I'll send you an email about that, Bill.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, and Dr. Lassen, I absolutely agree with what you are saying. I find that it's always difficult to be able to share resources with other people. I mean, I think what happens is we all get busy with our own, you know, our own members, our own clients, whatever, and it's just difficult. So I don't know if Dave, we could just send in resources that we're aware of, even the ones that our own, you know, organizations, you know, what can we provide? The thing that I want to just add on to that is, we all know this, who inform you about that resource or who can be a personal contact.
Right.
Just like we see here, Carrie is talking to Isaac, okay? I recently had someone contact me and they felt like they needed to get their daughter into Memorial Epworth. Yes, I could give her the number. Yes, I could do, yeah, I could give her a piece of paper that had that information. But it was so much more helpful for me to talk with her about confidentiality. I can't really say anything, but I can say, I know this person, they're in a lot of pain, and they're going to be calling you soon. I think many of us are in those situations, and sometimes, no, we don't have the funding right now for a detox center or whatever it is, but we can be human connectors for each other, I think. And I think sometimes we forget how important that is. And so I'll just add that on to what you're suggesting. Very important. I agree.
I just want to add that, you know, the St. Joe County Cares Consortium meetings that happen once a month have been continuing to happen online.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you that as a member of this community, I am so in love with who we are in terms of people sharing resources and reaching out and reaching across organizations to help out. I'm so inspired by that in terms of, and I find it just gives me a lot of energy to continue to do the work that's being done, Isaac can send women to St. Margaret's House or families to St. Margaret's House to get lunches 5 days a week. We can point to Isaac's program and say, here's somebody that can help you regarding this issue of gun violence in your community. Having those interpersonal connections is just essential. And I really am so grateful that different organizations in the community have continued to do that. Oaklawn Source, My Strength, which they released to the community for free, which is an online mental health app. It's really top notch in terms of trauma-informed care, and it's free to anybody that wants to use it. My staff is using it. Our guests have said thank you for giving us that information and helping us to utilize that. So there are things that are available to us, yes, and we just have to continue to communicate with one another about what's available and how we can continue to support everybody's mission.
Thank you so much.
Mary,
just quickly,
just
can I just quickly add one thing? So looking at the time, I know that some people are going to have to leave here. And so I just want to make sure to thank you all so much. We will keep this space open right now. So if anybody wants to stay on the conversation and continue, please feel free. But for anybody who needs to leave right now, I just wanted to make sure to say thank you to everyone who's participated in this. I can't echo and reemphasize enough the comments that have just been made about the importance of interpersonal connection, of these personal conversations. That's what these spaces exist for. So we really hope to see you all returning here. Please feel free to come whenever the topic fits your interests and needs. Please feel free to invite anybody else to join with us. And we will be, Lisa, hit the nail on the head. We definitely, at the Center for Social Concerns, are trying very hard to put some of those resources together and be a hub of information, so that if you do find yourself in a position of saying, well, maybe I'm not sure who to refer this person to for this particular issue, check the website, and hopefully there'll be something there that will help. And if it's not, let us know, because we want to be building that out as well. We want to be a hub for you to support you doing the great work that we can't, because there's so much that I see all these faces on my screen right now, so much that you're all doing that, we definitely cannot. And so we want to be there to provide any additional resources for you that we can. So thank you so much. Thank you for these conversations, for being here, for the excellent work that everyone is doing. And we really look forward to continuing this conversation with you in the future. And again, if anybody wants to stay on and continue to talk, please feel free. But thank you. And thank you to Lisa and Steve for joining us today as well. We appreciate it. You should know they've both already offered some resources that we're going to be putting together as part of that information on our website.